I demonstrated the correct way to do it. When I was 20, my husband vanished, but not in any dramatic or mysterious fashion. There was neither tragedy nor crime, nor any whispers of foul play. He just grabbed a bag and strolled out the door while I was in the shower. I requested that he keep an eye on Ryan, who was just 2 months old back then. Ryan wept like any newborn. His tiny face contorted in anguish, his small fists flailing in the air. My husband had always struggled with the sound of it. On several occasions, I noticed him sneaking out for a breath of fresh air when the tears became overwhelming for him, yet this time, he did not return. As I emerged from the shower, an unsettling quiet enveloped the house. A silence that felt almost heavy. The crib lay silent, save for Ryan, his face flushed and his cries echoing through the stillness. The closet door stood slightly open. Hangers gently swaying in the void left by his missing clothes. That was a long time ago. Now Ryan has become a man. He fills the doorway with his broad shoulders when he stands in the kitchen. His voice deep and confident, yet still carrying the warmth of the boy who once clung to my side. He is my pride, my entire universe, the one thing I have accomplished correctly in my life. We have been everything to one another. As a child, he would seek refuge in my bed after having nightmares, his tiny form nestled against me, his breath a comforting warmth on my arm. As he matured, our bond remained unbroken. We discussed it all, our aspirations, anxieties, and visions for the future. He shared with me his first crush, his initial heartbreak, and his aspirations for the future. I never declined his requests, yet he seldom asked for anything at all. He was always kind-hearted. He never complicated my life. He truly made me feel whole. Today he stood before me, hesitant, his gaze flickering downward. That was his typical reaction whenever he felt embarrassed. A gentle tug at my heart accompanied the sight of it. "What is it, Ryan?" I inquired softly. He breathed out, then spoke in a hushed tone. "Lynx asked me to come over for a sleepover." Lynx, his partner. I had anticipated this moment would arrive at some point. The moment when another person would take the place at the center of his universe, yet I found myself unprepared for it. "Oh, wonderful," I remarked, my tone more buoyant than my true emotions. "Who else is going to be present?" Ryan adjusted his stance, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. "Mom, it's just Lynx and I, that's it." The words lingered in the air, weighty and unmistakable. My boy, my baby, was on the brink of experiencing his first night with a girl. The awareness enveloped me, a peculiar blend of pride and an indescribable emotion, something that eluded my grasp. It wasn't jealousy, no, that would be absurd, but there was an unmistakable finality in his words, a door. An ending, a beginning. I observed him, noting how his jaw tightened and how his hands clenched at his sides. He felt a wave of anxiety wash over him. Certainly, he was. He stood at the precipice of the unknown. A realm both exhilarating and daunting. Uninvited, memories stirred within me. The first time I stood on that precipice, my heart raced, anticipation coiling in my belly like a hidden secret. Warmth flooding through me at the thought of skin brushing against skin, the way a single touch could spark something profound within. I swallowed, shoving those thoughts aside. This wasn't about me. It was Ryan's moment. Yet, even as I assured him everything would be fine, even as I smiled and reassured him that Lynx. Clearly, I had feelings for him, yet there was a stirring within me, akin to a long-buried ache gradually coming to life. He sat beside me, close enough that I could sense the warmth radiated from him, his nervous energy filling the space between us. His hands fidgeted in his lap, fingers tapping against his knee in a quiet cadence. In that moment, he exhibited a certain vulnerability, an uncertainty that was seldom seen. He possessed always been so self-assured, so steady in his own way, but this was different. This was unfamiliar to him. Still not a subscriber to Nasty Talks? Tap that subscribe button now to be the first to catch our stories each day. I opened the laptop, the glow of the screen illuminating the dim room with a gentle light. It felt oddly personal. Being together in this way, his shoulder almost touching mine. As I moved through the folders, Initially, I accessed straightforward diagrams, anatomical, clinical, nothing too complex. I aimed for him to grasp the mechanics initially, to learn the art of movement, how to touch without inflicting harm. Unease. He observed closely, his brows knitting together in focus, as his eyes followed the intricate details of the illustrations. You need to be patient, I murmured, allowing my fingers to linger over the images. The body reacts to compassion, not coercion. Observe, this is the way to gently guide her into it. His throat bobbed with a small swallow, and I observed how his breathing slowed, his focus sharpening. He was approaching this with utmost seriousness. I proceeded, bringing up a collection of instructional images that illustrated more than mere technicalities, offering insights on anticipation and emphasizing the significance of gentle exploration. His fingers curled into the fabric of his jeans as he took in every lesson. This was truly charming. With a strong desire to learn, he was determined to make his first experience unforgettable, not only for himself but also for the girl he cherished. Then there are the videos. Educational and thoughtfully selected, the type utilized in organized lessons, devoid of anything vulgar or crude, simply gentle, gradual displays of tenderness and patience. I looked at him as the first video started, the soft murmur of voices detailing each movement in serene, composed tones. His jaw tightened slightly, and his chest rose and fell in steady, measured breaths. His gaze remained fixed on the screen. I observed his expression change, curiosity mingling with understanding. A brief glimpse of something more profound that I recognized yet opted to ignore. His fingers flexed against his knee, a subconscious response to the burgeoning awareness enveloping him. Do you notice the way he lingers? I whispered, maintaining a steady tone, observing how he allows her to take the lead when she feels prepared, a gentle nod accompanying my words. I extended my hand, allowing it to rest gently over his, if only for a brief moment. It's about connection, I murmured gently. It's about ensuring her sense of security. Another nod, this time more deliberate. His fingers danced beneath mine, warm, powerful, yet hesitant. The next video played, the movements on the screen flowed with intention. The type of touch that transcended mere sensation and delved into the realm of emotion. His breathing had deepened, and his focus remained steadfast. I pondered the thoughts that might be swirling in his mind. Should he envision himself in those instances? Should he sense the burden of what lay ahead? He requested my assistance, and I was providing guidance in the best way I understood. I simply hadn't anticipated the atmosphere between us to feel this electric. His voice pierced the gentle murmur of the video, subtle yet resolute. A question, straightforward in its wording yet profound in its significance. My breath caught for a moment. The steady rhythm of my thoughts disrupted as I processed what he had just asked. He had consistently shared his thoughts with me, always confiding his concerns and uncertainties. However, this was something entirely different. He sought more than mere knowledge. He yearned for guidance, for a connection that transcended simple instruction. I glanced at him, examining his features in the soft light of the screen. His eyes held no doubt, only a profound sincerity, the kind that caused my heart to ache, seeing how much he still sought my guidance. Would you like me to demonstrate for you? The words escaped me before I had completely processed them. A subtle nod, a breath, slow and deliberate before he spoke once more, for her. I adore her. The honesty in his voice stirred something deep within me. He had never voiced it before, not in this way. Love. It lingered in the atmosphere surrounding us, molding the moment into something gentle, something fragile. I allowed the quiet to linger between us, seeking the perfect words. He had always exercised caution with his feelings. Yet now he stood exposed in a manner I had never witnessed before, the burden of his first love, his initial experience, the yearning to achieve perfection. It was all consuming him. I extended my hand, gently resting it over his. It was warm beneath my touch, his fingers curling slightly, a hint of uncertainty lingering in the air. Very well. The calm reply allowed his shoulders to relax. Yet his breathing stayed steady and controlled. I turned to face him, my hand rising slowly, and with intention. He observed, his eyes darting between my fingertips and my face. his chest rising and falling with a subtle sense of anticipation. I traced the air just above his skin, the closeness creating a gentle warmth, a bond. Free from stress. A pulse throbbed steadily beneath the surface, his or mine. I couldn't tell. I proceeded with caution, my fingers lightly brushing against the inner part of his wrist, sensing the subtle quiver beneath my touch. The breath he let go was almost silent, yet I could sense how it moved within him, how his fingers flickered briefly before settling once more. "It's not about rushing," I whispered, my voice calm and unwavering. "It's about paying attention, about understanding when to act and when to hold back." The distance that separated us had transformed. An intangible yet delicate essence flowing silently between us. His concentration remained steadfast, each motion I took reflected in his own breath, his own consciousness. I observed him taking it all in, not merely the mechanics, but the purpose behind it, how patience molded the experience into something more profound. There was a calmness, a sense of ease in embracing the present without the pressure to exceed its boundaries, just a deep comprehension, serene and unvoiced, permeating the space that lies between us. The atmosphere in the room was thick and stagnant, enveloped in an unarticulated tension. The gentle illumination of the bedside lamp created elongated shadows, extending and transforming with every subtle motion. He sat across from me, observing, anticipating, his breath calm yet unwavering. I allowed my fingers to glide along the curve of my hip, moving slowly and with intention, my palm pressing flat against the fabric that enveloped me, across my abdomen, tracing my ribs, rising to my throat, where my heartbeat pulsed under my fingertips. A landscape of feeling, a subtle teaching in mastery and endurance. His gaze lingered, tracking every movement, his body motionless yet fully engaged. Then I extended my hand toward him. "Would you like to help the girls in the channel by watching the videos daily? We invite you to contribute with a donation of any amount through the link provided in the description." His fingers radiated warmth, his palm was broad yet tentative as I steered it along the familiar route, across the curve of my side, along the slope of my collarbone, weaving gently through my hair. He imitated each motion with precision, his movements soft and deliberate. A spark of pride ignited within me. He comprehended. He wasn't merely trailing behind, he was experiencing. I turned away from him, letting my hair cascade over one shoulder to reveal the gentle curve of my neck. The cool air brushed against my skin, a stark contrast to the warmth that still clung to me from his touch. "Observe the way the neck seamlessly transitions into the back." My voice was soft, steady, guiding it with just 2 fingers. A moment of stillness, followed by the lingering sensation of his touch, 2 fingertips tracing the line I had created for him. A gradual slide from the nape of my neck, tracing the gentle arch of my spine, halting precisely at the point where bone yielded to flesh. My skin tingled in reaction, a surge of warmth flowing through it. "Wake." With the other hand, I murmured, "Move from here." I guided his second hand to my ribs, letting him feel the way breath moved beneath the surface. "To here." I brought it lower to the dip of my lower back. He hesitated for just a moment, then followed, his hands moving in tandem, mirroring my rhythm. Not rushed, not mechanical, but deliberate, fluid, his fingers adjusting to the subtle shifts in my body. Sensing rather than simply touching. A quiet hum of approval built in my chest. He was doing it right. He repeated the motion again and again, each pass more certain than the last. The air between us pulsed with quiet understanding. His breath, measured and steady, mingled with mine in the hush of the room. It was a lesson in patience, in awareness. The slightest change in pressure, the warmth of fingertips against bare skin. It all meant something. I could feel it. So could he. The soft glow of the lamp spilled across the room, casting golden light over the folds of the sheets, the angles of the walls, the line of my shoulders. It softened everything, wrapped us in a quiet, suspended moment where the world outside seemed to blur into insignificance. He was focused, entirely absorbed in each motion, as if the simplicity of touch was a delicate art that required all his concentration. The warmth of his hands replaced mine, his palms carefully tracing the paths I had shown him. There was no urgency in the way he moved, only a quiet determination to get everything just right, to understand every nuance. My skin responded despite the simplicity of it all. A faint shiver at the gentlest brush of his fingers. Each touch was unhurried, measured, his hands learning the curves and hollows that seemed to draw him in. I told myself this was just instruction. Just teaching, but the warmth that followed each glide of his palm, the slight tremor that pulsed beneath my skin, betrayed the consistency I endeavored to uphold. Sense how it traces the contours. I murmured, leading his hand along the delicate curve of my waist, the way the muscles responded beneath, softly. It's not about pressure, it's about the places it resides. He nodded, his breath calm, reflecting my own. The air was heavy with the fragrance of lavender from the sheets, blending seamlessly with the gentle hum of power in the lamp. It occupied the void between us. A testament that this was a genuine presence. His fingers, now assured, glided along the contour of my rib cage, outlining the delicate curve of my side before resting at the small of my back. The feeling unfolded gradually, a gentle warmth that resonated deeply, a wave of consciousness stirred with every caress. My body responded instinctively, as if the proximity, the mere presence of his hands, was sufficient to awaken something that had been asleep for ages. Every movement was executed with precision and care, yet an unspoken intimacy lingered beneath. Undeniably palpable. I attempted to concentrate on the guidance, ensuring he comprehended, yet the manner in which he shifted, the way his hand rested at the base of my spine. Each touch left a resonance, a persistent warmth that radiated in gentle ripples. It was an odd blend of straightforwardness and intricacy. A path we both traversed without fully understanding its destination. He leaned in, his breath warm against the back of my neck, and I felt a subtle tremor ripple through me. The light enveloped everything in a gentle embrace, casting our shadows upon the wall, softening the contours of the room, and highlighting the line of his shoulders as he approached. Silence enveloped the moment, punctuated only by the gentle cadence of breath, and the tender exploration of hands. Each touch was a journey of learning and discovery, with an unspoken understanding blossoming in the spaces between. It was a lesson in itself, yet the warmth shared was unmistakable. It enveloped us, embraced us in its hold as the moment elongated into the night. The house had never seemed so devoid of life. I lingered in the doorway after he departed. The sound of his car diminishing into the night, consumed by the soft murmur of the world beyond. For 18 years, he had always been here. A constant presence that filled the space with a comforting familiarity. Yet tonight, he was somewhere else, venturing into uncharted territory. Into a night that would signify a shift neither of us could undo. I had equipped him thoroughly. He had internalized every touch, every lesson, and embraced each movement as his own until my hands became unnecessary. He was prepared, enthusiastic, unwavering in his assurance. The picture of him cradling the gift stayed with me. The delicate heft of the box in his grasp, the subtle excitement shimmering in his gaze. He had selected it with great thought, invested his own funds, a fragment of his essence bound in a ribbon. It was a gesture I recognized, one that transported me to a time when love was fresh, when my own hands had quivered at the thought of offering something to someone dear to me. I recalled his father. Not as he appeared in the end, but as he had been in the beginning, the way he had gazed at me in those moments. The way he had extended his hand toward me with that same blend of uncertainty and longing, as if the entirety of existence could be grasped in the interval between a touch and a breath. The burden of nostalgia nestled deep within me, pressing against the subtle ache that had lingered for so long I had nearly forgotten its weight. The stillness in the home lingered, strange and disquieting. I traversed the room at a leisurely pace, my fingertips brushing against the contours of the furniture. Sensing the chill of the kitchen counter and the sleek texture of the wooden table, everything remained as it always had, yet now it felt altered. As if his absence had subtly changed something invisible. The bed seemed overwhelmingly spacious as I finally nestled beneath the covers. The sheets felt cool against my skin, the fabric soft. Yet there was no familiar voice in the next room, no gentle breathing to soothe me into slumber. I turned onto my side, gazing at the vacant space next to me. Observing how the darkness gathered in the corners of the room. The warmth from earlier still lingered faintly on my skin, a memory just beneath the surface. A whisper of something that had passed between us. I breathed out gently, shutting my eyes, urging myself to surrender to the stillness. The burden of the day bore down on me, heavy and relentless. The house loomed larger than ever, its silence echoing through each vacant room like a ghostly entity. I lay in bed, the sheets cool against my skin. My body sinking into the mattress as thoughts swirled, slow and heavy. Memories of him emerged first, the boy I had once cherished, the one who had swept through my life like a raging fire, leaving only smoldering remnants behind. He was wild, unrestrained, a whirlwind that captivated me with the allure of something grander, something more luminous, for a fleeting moment. I had been convinced, but that flame extinguished far too quickly, leaving me solitary with an infant cradled in my arms, burdened by a life that now felt far weightier than I had ever envisioned. And now that baby had grown into a man, a different sort of man, steady, thoughtful, and tender in a way his father had never been. I observed him today, noting how his hands mirrored mine. How he absorbed each movement with meticulous attention. He had acquired not merely skill, but also patience, control, and the silent communication of touch, the idea of it coursed through me. A gentle warmth unfurling, a soft wave gliding beneath my skin. My fingers glided effortlessly, brushing against my collarbone. Following the curve of my neck where warmth still resonated from earlier. It was a well-known path, yet this evening it carried a distinct feeling. I allowed my hands to drift lower along my sides, tracing the gentle curve of my waist, noticing how my breath flowed beneath my ribs. My palms pressed against my stomach, gliding along the curves of my hips, slow and exploratory. A soft exhale escaped my lips. I shouldn't be dwelling on it, yet the feeling of his hands echoing mine, tracing each movement with meticulous care, has become an integral part of me now. The memory lingered on my skin, a soft murmur of something that would not let go. I exhaled, my fingers sinking into the softness of my thigh, my body responding to my own touch. The atmosphere in the room was dense, the warmth from the lamp illuminating the sheets, and the contours of my body, enveloping me in a serene and weighty embrace. I closed my eyes, allowing myself to immerse in the sensation, in the reverberations of the day, the manner in which touch had been discovered and etched into memory, the night unfurled, long and silent. The house cradling its tranquility like a hidden truth. No footsteps, no murmurs from another room, just me alone, enveloped in the silence of my own breath, my own thoughts. Yet the past remained awake. It pressed against me, unyielding, drawing me back to a time when I was youthful, audacious, ignited by something too intense to hold back. He was a whirlwind, all intensity and jagged lines, his touch devoid of patience, lacking in care. I confused hunger with love, misinterpreted being wanted as being cherished, and then he vanished. At 18 years, I had mastered the art of bearing that emptiness as if it were a second skin, yet tonight, its weight felt distinctly altered. My fingers wandered aimlessly, skimming the fabric. Sensing the warmth of my own body beneath, the fabric clung to my skin, damp and warm, the heat still echoing in its folds. I hadn't even realized. A sensation, low and deep, coiled within me. A sense of acknowledgement, an unavoidable truth. I breathed in slowly and deeply, and as I did, the tension within me wound tighter, far too tight. It tugged, elongated, until it broke in a surge that crashed through me, too abrupt to prepare for, too powerful to contain. A sound erupted from my lips, raw and unrestrained, shattering the silence like a bolt of lightning piercing the night. It was more than mere sensation. It was a tapestry of memory woven with threads of longing. It was all the pain I had overlooked, every subtle caress that had remained unacknowledged for years. In mere moments, there was a rush, a shudder, and then an enveloping stillness. My breath came in fits, my limbs felt weighted, my body sinking further into the sheets, as the final remnants of warmth throbbed beneath my skin. Then, only the silence lingered, a stark reminder of my solitude. The morning light poured through the kitchen window, gentle and warm, enveloping the room in a serene radiance. The air lingered, thick with the echoes of the night that had just passed. The echoes of my reflections, the gentle heat resting under my skin, the heaviness of isolation settling into the stillness, but then the door swung open, shattering everything into fragments. He glided through the house with the buoyancy of one who had unearthed a fresh revelation, something exhilarating. His face radiated brightness, his steps were swift, and his energy was undeniable. Then, arms enveloped me, his body radiating warmth from the cool morning air beyond. "Thanks, Mom. It turned out well." She felt an overwhelming sense of joy. "Thank you very much." His voice resonated throughout the room, imbued with an essence that was both genuine and unrefined, a joy so luminous it nearly took me by surprise. I exhaled a breath I hadn't even known I was holding. A sense of pride filled me, profound and serene. I had led him to this moment, provided him with what he required to make her feel valued. To transform this night into something beyond mere performance. He accomplished it by himself, using his own hands and his own diligence. I gazed at him, captivated by the way his face radiated an ethereal quality. And I beheld not my little boy, but a man. I extended an invitation for dinner. They came in unison, their presence enveloping the house with a warmth that resonated deeply within. Their hands brushed absent-mindedly, leaning into one another with an effortless intimacy, communicating in a silent language all their own. I had encountered it previously, many years back. I observed them from across the table, my fingers encircling the stem of my wine glass, my thoughts drifting between the present and the past. They resembled us too closely, like him and me, when love was all we believed we required. The way she gazed at him, the way he extended his hand toward her, it embodied all that I had once held dear. Months later, he approached me with a ring. His voice resonated with unwavering determination, embodying a steadfast belief that love was sufficient, that he had discovered the one he wished to cherish for eternity. I asked him to hold on, not out of skepticism regarding his emotions, nor out of a desire to strip him of this joy, but because I had once found myself in that very position. I had experienced that certainty, had believed that love alone would suffice to mold a life. Yet life encompassed more than just love. For the first time, he chose not to listen, yet she did. She grasped his hands gently, her voice a tender whisper as she expressed her love for him. But not just yet, not at this moment. I noticed the pain flash in his eyes, the way his fingers tightened around hers before he nodded slowly and with resignation. And I felt a sense of relief, both for her and for him. Yet, the question lingered long after our discussion had concluded, finding its place in the silent recesses of my thoughts. He had discovered something genuine, something profound. And yet, here I stood, alone in the doorway as he drove away, watching the car fade into the distance, pondering how I might discover that for myself. Enjoy this video and consider subscribing to Nasty Talks. Make sure to share this video with your friends on WhatsApp, so they can enjoy it as well. I appreciate your presence here with me.